You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Stay hungry.
Hungry. Foolish. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
This is the eCommerce All-Stars podcast, brought to you with heart by Nadimo.com.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for joining today's show with your host, Brandon Moscow, of course. And today I'm excited I have Brian Greenberg on the line. He's founded many e-commerce and marketing and financial service companies, and he's generated over $5 million in revenue from his businesses. He's also collected over 10,000 reviews and testimonials from customers, and that's something I really wanted to talk to him about today. That said, he's also been named one of the most creative people in financial services and has been called the salesman who doesn't sell, which is actually, I believe, the name of your upcoming book. Is it not, Brian?
That's correct. The Salesman Who Doesn't Sell, a marketing guide to selling while you sleep.
Awesome. So thanks for being on the show today, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
I think it'll be great. I wanted to specifically talk today with you about some strategies for collecting 5-star reviews for your company, because I think that crosses outside of e-commerce as well. But I think the other side of what I want to talk about is how you can leverage those 5-star reviews and reviews in general to increase your conversion rate. But before we get into that, I would love it if you can, I know I gave a quick background on you, but if you don't mind kind of talking a little bit about your background and what you've done, just to kind of give people a little bit more of a awareness of who you are if they don't already know.
Of course. I started on, with online businesses back in 2003. I've started several e-commerce businesses myself that are actually still running today in 2018. I actually owned an internet marketing agency that focused on organic SEO. I actually sold that back in 2012. And currently my main business is True Blue Life Insurance. We sell life insurance policies in all 50 states. And, I kind of went into that industry just because it's hard to rank for, number one. And number two, it's extremely profitable.
So you went into it because it's hard to rank for?
I did, yeah. The cost per click on insurance keywords is $30 plus, sometimes
right.
Over $50. And I got very good at ranking websites organically. So that's the way I went.
Very interesting. We could cover a whole show on that, I'm sure. Anyhow, I interrupted you there. Did you have more you wanted to add, or?
No, business is great. Part of the reason why I come on the podcast is actually for the marketing purpose, right?
Right.
For the people that are listening, when you go on podcasts, you guys, put a page up on your website and link to my websites, and they're real company stuff. It's a very legitimate way to build natural links, and that's part of being a salesman who doesn't sell. That's the book that I wrote where I go over all the specifics, and I really just want to give away as much information as possible on how to do this. Right
on. And I'm just going to assume then that one of the ways to do that is through 5-star reviews. Is that a fair statement? I'm making a big assumption here, but
no, I'd say that's one of the main thing, if not the absolute main thing, to concentrate on business-wise.
Right.
The thing is, if you concentrate on reviews, you're concentrating on customer satisfaction. And I think that's one of the biggest things, right?
Yeah.
I do believe that people and businesses that operate ethically, transparently, and honestly, they deserve to get all the business. And the way that you can display and leverage that you do business in an honest and ethical way is to display the reviews. That's what can separate you from all your competitors.
I would agree with you entirely, because when people are looking at a product, for example, on a website, one of the things that they look for is reviews. If it's something that they're trying to decide on, they're just on the fence or what have you. And I've found personally that even if it's not all 5 stars, in fact, sometimes the 2 stars or 3 stars mean even more. I know for a perfect example is if I'm scrolling through, I actually look for the bad reviews because I want to see what they were complaining about. Because if it's something simple like, oh, it was shipped to me, and when it was shipped, it was damaged in shipping. Well, that's, that probably is not related to the company. And then the next question is, how did they deal with that? But at least I know what those kinds of reviews are and what the point of them was. But I mean, obviously, I like 3 to 5 stars as well, as most people do. What are some of your suggested strategies to collect those 5-star reviews?
Look, the number one way is by email. All right, by far. I really don't want people to just collect reviews, and get them in their email, because what we want to do is get them in the standard format that you can put it on your website. And I also preach very strongly to get reviews on third-party websites like the Better Business Bureau or Google or Yelp or whatever it is. But there's a specific format that you need to follow. So I like to include the person's name, always include stars, 5 stars. I like to include the city and state that the person who left the review. Please include the date, right? I like to get a comment. And then, those are the reviews that people view as legitimate. If you don't have a date on there, you don't know where it came from or what they bought, people are smart. They'll know that there's a good chance that that's not a very legitimate review. So the first thing is use email and get that review in a standard format.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I've always thought that it's very important to have it on third party like Google, because Google rankings, I believe, my understanding is it helps with the rankings as well.
Oh, yeah.
But that being your first one, what would you say another strategy for getting those?
Right. So every customer, I want to send an email, and it's an email that I control, Brandon. I use my own system. If you have an e-commerce website, they're always, have an e-commerce, a review system built into it. There's third-party plugins you can use. Very important that you use your own system first, all right? Because if there is a complaint, you have the option, number one, not to display it. Number two, you can fix it right away. So what I like to do is I'll send somebody an email requesting a review on, say, the 3rd, the 7th, and the 10th day, all right? And it's automated. I use ActiveCampaign. Now, only when I get a 5-star review do I then turn around and ask for them to leave a review on a third-party website. I don't want to ask people that are upset in any sort of way to leave a review on those sites, because you can't get them down, all right? No matter how many lawyers you have, you cannot get them down. Now, another great strategy is to include the actual comment that they gave me. And when I send them an email and say, hey, can you leave it on the Better Business Bureau, I include that comment. All right, so they don't have to think about another review to write. They already did it. And lastly, give them a link directly to the place on the third-party website you want them to leave the link. Don't make them, go to your Better Business Bureau page and click leave a review, or don't send them to your Yelp page and say, leave a review. Too many steps. You can send them to a URL that brings them right to the pop-up page where they can enter a review. The easier it is, the better. And my goodness, if you do these things, you'll find that you're going to get reviews through the roof. And those are the things that separate you and increase your conversion rates.
Actually, it's kind of funny what you're talking about there, is just basically making it as easy as possible,
Oh, yeah.
friction-free. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot with regards to just your checkout processes and types of things like that, like making things simple. Because especially if you're asking something from someone, even if it's something they've already done, like you just said, asking them to do it again is that much easier if you give them copy paste their comment they made and give them the direct link, and then all they have to do really is click that link and copy paste their stuff in the form. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you have a process all in place for that. You must, if you've collected over 10,000 reviews yourself, 5-star reviews, that is. So
it works. It does
Awesome.
work. Just automate it to make it easier on yourself. People don't like asking for reviews.
Right.
It's a hard thing to do. But if they're satisfied and you did a good job, look, it's the theory of reciprocity. They want to do something for you.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. How do you go about leveraging those reviews?
Number one, put it on your website.
Right.
Put it on every page of your website. Some people think, again, it's like a form of bragging. I don't believe that. I think it's people's ethical responsibility to let people know how they do business in an honest and ethical way. So put those reviews on your website. A lot of times they'll have seals, but you know what? I like to create my own seals that link right to the review page. Again, I don't want to send them to the main Better Business Bureau page or a Google search for my company. I want to send them right to the spot where they can read all the reviews. You mentioned the checkout page. Oh my goodness, put those reviews on your checkout page, because what we found is, look, we've done numerous studies and user interface studies, and we can see how people interact with our websites. Before they make the purchase, before they hit place order, they do a Google search, and they do a Google search with your name followed by review or complaints. Now, if you have good reviews on Yelp and Better Business Bureau and Google Business or TripAdvisor, boom, you've closed the deal. All right. So those are great ways to leverage it. And there's a few more I can discuss, Brandon.
Sure, I'd like to hear those as well.
Well, I think you said, if you have reviews on Google, it increases your rankings. Now, it doesn't really increase your rankings organically on those free things, but on any sort of local search, you're absolutely right. You're going to show up higher the more reviews you have. It's a type of SEO called barnacle SEO. Barnacle SEO is attaching yourself to a larger entity that brings resources to you, right? So, look, I go on Yelp to find service providers. And boy, there's been studies, if you're a restaurant and you have a lot of 5-star reviews, you're going to be booked. Conversely, if you start getting bad reviews and you're a restaurant, you're going to see your reservations plummet. So they're so valuable. Now, Brandon, I want to just go a little bit and discuss the monetary value of reviews. All right. I think that people don't really know what the ROI is on reviews. It's a hard thing to measure. But look, I measure it with, conversion rates. Now, if I get a review on my website, I value it at $100. And every year after that, $10. Because, look, they stay on my website and they increase my conversion rate. If I get a 5-star review on Google Business or Better Business Bureau, I value those at $250 a piece and $25 each additional year. Now, if you know the value of reviews, you're much more apt to ask for them. And look, because I know the value of it, I could actually reward my customer service reps and my salespeople. I give them bonuses on how many reviews they get. A lot of times, one girl, she gets like 40 reviews every month. It's incredible. But she'll let people know. She says, hey, I'm in a contest. She'll use the word contest, and people like her, and they fill out reviews for her across the board.
Huh, that's interesting. So my question, though, is those numbers that you've assigned to the value of a review, is that just an arbitrary number that you've placed on it, or is that based on some sort of research that you've done, or how do you come up with those numbers, or how can somebody out there who's running an e-commerce site come up with that value for them?
It's a hard thing to calculate, and a lot of the backup that I have for those statistics are from personal experience. They've done a lot of studies on how negative reviews can impact, and from there you could come to a monetary value based on how much sales you do and how much you lost because of the lower conversion rate. Conversely, they find if a restaurant goes from a 3-star review to 4.5 stars, they can see a 10 to 15% increase in their business. So there's a lot of studies out there. It depends on how much business you do. Obviously, the more business you do, the higher value it is. Also, the value of what you're selling will increase it. The important thing to do is to put a monetary value on it because they are valuable. In the past, people would go to the people they know and say, hey, where should I buy from, right? What's the best restaurant? Let's say your friend says, oh, you should go to this Chinese restaurant. I love it. That's the one I recommend for you. But then you go online and you look at it on Yelp and you find out 10 one-star reviews. Oh, the food is terrible. I got sick. Well, who are you going to believe, right? Overwhelmingly, people believe anonymous people online. So these reviews are the new references, and it can shorten the sales process.
Interesting. And that's the thing I like about it, shortening that sales process as well, actually, because, I mean, you pay a lot, and when you're talking e-commerce, you're paying a lot, just like you mentioned in the beginning, $30 per click for an insurance website. But you can be paying a lot of money for your pay-per-clicks or however you're doing it to generate the traffic to your site. And the industry average right now is that 98% of those people aren't going to buy from you today. So I mean that's a 2% conversion rate. If you think about it from a perspective of a store owner, if you're sitting in your store and 100 people walk in on your day, and only 2 of them buy from you, you're not going to feel very good about yourself. At the end of the day, you're going to feel pretty. You're going to really wonder what's wrong. In e-commerce, that's the standard, the average, and then so you need to find ways to leverage that and generate those conversions and get those conversion rates higher. And by putting reviews on your site and having those third-party reviews to drive the traffic to you, that's also where it helps identify the value of those reviews, right? I mean, for example, someone's on Yelp and they find you reviewed, then you've been reviewed 100 times, and they're all 5-star reviews. Well, of course, it's going to drive a lot more traffic to your site. It's going to drive a lot more business to you immediately. It may even bypass, in cases where it's not necessarily e-commerce driven sales, it might bypass that entire site visit to your site and drive them straight into your store or into your business. And so from what you've said there, I'm starting to see more. I mean, I've always had a huge value in reviews, but I've never really put a monetary value on it. And I can see how you can extrapolate some of that data to try and determine an actual value based on like an actual hard value, so that you know how to value that. Because if you're not, like you said, if you're not putting a fiscal value on those reviews, then you as a business owner are not going to spend a lot of time going out to collect those reviews. And I mean, you said in the beginning you can automate that process, and to some regards you absolutely can and should, but that also takes time, setting up that process. And if you're not inclined to do so because you don't see what the actual monetary value in each of those reviews is, then you're really missing out. So I think it's really interesting what you said there with regards to placing a monetary value on it, and I see the huge benefits to doing so. So thank you for that.
Of course. Brandon, one of the things that people hate to answer over and over again is, a customer will call and they'll say, why should I buy from you? Right. I'm sure people have, a nice answer to it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The thing reviews can do is people don't have to ask that question. You can say, hey, look, we have a lot of satisfied customers, take a look at our reviews. So, that answers the question why I should buy from you. Look at Amazon. E-commerce average conversion rate is, like you said, 1.5%, 2%, maybe a little over 2%. Amazon's conversion rate is 15 to 20%. Why? Right? People trust it, and there's all these reviews on it. The other thing is, look, I mean, I find service providers on Yelp. I don't even go to their website, really. I can go to Yelp and contact them straight through Yelp. A lot of people do incredible business on Amazon Marketplace. And the last thing, Brandon, is, let's put a monetary review on, negative reviews. All right. I've seen companies that, get a lot of negative reviews, and, like you said, if you get a 1-star review, it may not hurt you so bad, especially if you address it and people know that you'll fix it. Though if you get too many bad reviews, what do? Right? People, they hate seeing their website across. When people search the name, they're going to see all these complaints. I've seen companies have to just close the company, start it over again, right? Start it over again with a new company name, a new corporation, and a new website because they screwed it up, right? So negative reviews have, tens of thousands of dollars of negative value.
They absolutely do, and that's one of the things that I talk about. You need to be making sure you're putting your customer first, and customer satisfaction has to be at the foremost of your attention. And you mentioned that too in the very beginning, that the easiest way to get 5-star reviews is to focus on the customer. Now that said, here's a question then. Negative reviews, do you delete them or do you embrace them? I mean, I think from what you said, I kind of have an inclination as to which direction you're going to lead, but just like to hear that.
If it's on my own website and it's something I can control, look, I usually don't display them. All right. Now, if it's on a third-party website, now this is when it gets tricky. This is when you have to be good. So the last thing you want to do is react. Don't react. You want to respond. Take your time. Don't say something like, oh, look, we did everything for you and you were a picky customer and, this is baloney. Don't argue. All right. That's the last thing you want to do. The goal is first to get them to take it down. All right. And I've been very successful thus far. So the first thing you want to do is fix the problem. First of all, I'm willing to take a loss. I'm willing to take a loss of up to $500 to get a bad review on a third-party website down. All right. Easy. Number one, I'll fix it immediately. Number two, I'll follow up, make sure that now that they're happy. Sometimes if it's a real bad review, I'll send them an Amazon gift card for $100. Then I'll go back and say, look, I hope we fixed it. Can you take down the review? Look, knock on wood, I've gotten every review down. You can look at the reviews on my company now. Hopefully you're not listening to it later, but no negative reviews. All right.
Right.
Let's say theoretically you can't get a review down.
Yeah.
In that case, like you said, people read those and sometimes you can turn them around. You can fix it right away. Say, look, we screwed up. Okay. But we fixed it and it will never happen again. And I think you're right. People read those negative reviews first and they're deciding, what's the chance that they have a good experience or a negative experience? And if they have a negative experience, how is that company going to fix it? Now, reviews have another very important thing, and it's important for me when I'm choosing a provider. If they rely on reviews, they have accountability, right? So if they do a bad job and they don't fix it, if you call them and they don't fix it, I could leave a bad review. And usually companies react when you do that, and they'll fix the problem. And I've left bad reviews, and I've taken down reviews as well when they fix it.
Yeah, no, and so have I. I try not to, for example, use my Twitter feed to tweet out negative pieces, but I will leave a negative review if I've gone. I typically wait though, and I typically address them first and see if they'll address my problem. But that's just my own way of doing it. And others go straight to the review and hope to get their problems addressed. And I think it's funny though when you do it that way and nobody responds. I think that's really, really a big mistake. You end up in a situation you talked about earlier where you end up having to rename your business and redo it all right from the ground up. But yet, and hopefully you've learned from that mistake. You're not doing it all the same way. So, so I'd love it if you could just kind of end this for us with any final words of wisdom and how people can get a hold of you and get their hands on your book and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Look, there's a time to ask for a review, and it's when you've delivered the product and you're basically asking them if they're satisfied. do it automatically. Look, yeah, it takes a little time investment, possibly some money to hire a freelancer to set it up in ActiveCampaign or Constant Contact or MailChimp. But you set it up once, and it's an automated system, and those are things that it's worth investing in. Now, reviews, I hope people know how valuable they are. They are the word of mouth now, and they're just amazing. One thing we even said is, look, sometimes my reviews show up in the organic search results, right? So, they can do a search and they'll see the stars right in Google. So the important thing is, please know that these reviews have monetary value. Go after them and then leverage them. So focus on customer service and then leverage it by putting those links and that basically verification to build trust and build confidence in your service. Now, if I wrote a book, it's called The Salesman Who Doesn't Sell. I would love to give all of your listeners the free audiobook. They can go to brianjgreenberg.com/eCommerce All-Stars. And, look, I'm giving the information away. They can download the audiobook right there.
Awesome. I'll make sure that link is up in the show notes for you guys. And yeah, that's awesome. So I'll make sure I spread the word on that as well when we publish the show.
Thank you, Brandon.
So thanks a lot for being on the show today, Brian. I think you've shared a wealth of information in regards to reviews specifically and just business practices in general. Thank you very much for your thoughts and your time.
Thank you very much for having me on, and I hope some of the information helps your listeners.
You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Stay hungry.
Hungry. Foolish. Stay hungry. Stay foolish.
This is the eCommerce All-Stars podcast, brought to you with heart by Nadimo.com.